The project for today is the installation of a Aquatel fluid level sensor on the tank, but there's a couple of other steps involved, so it's not as straightforward as just putting the sensor on the tank. I need to make a cap that gives me a flat surface to mount to, so that I can screw the fluid level sensor to the roof of the tank, which is made out of corrugated iron, so I can't mount directly to it because it's not flat. So I need to create this cap. Screw in so it doesn't move around because it's just wiggling around while I'm trying to file it. Okay. And then I'm just going to take a chunk out of the material with a grinder and with a flat disc on it, just to make life a little bit easier, and then I'll do the final sanding by hand, the final filing by hand. It doesn't have to be an absolutely perfect fit. It has to be close enough that I can get a good seal, and that seal won't fail when the lid of the tank gets to 60, 70 degrees in summer. Lots and lots of people lose all of their water in a bushfire because they've got penetrations into their tank, and once the ash and everything from the fire settles on the roof of their tank, it gets washed in and their entire water supply gets contaminated. So yes, fairly tedious process, but this device wasn't cheap, and so I want to make sure I get a good secure mount for it. But I also want to make sure that I don't compromise the integrity of the roof of the tank. To this point, I've avoided drilling any holes or cutting anything into the top of the tank, so that all the water that gets on it runs straight over the top and doesn't go into the tank. And that means we can fill it up when we see fit and when we know the water and what we're putting in is clean. And if there's ever any sort of contamination, like a bushfire, if the top of the tank is not compromised, that compromised water can't get in without us putting it in. So that's one side done, as you can see. So now I just need to replicate that on the other side, and then that should fit nice and flush against the corrugated roof of the tank. So here we are. I've made the cut in the hole in the top of the tank with a hole saw. This is where an existing gauge used to be, so again, trying not to put too many holes in the top of the tank. So now I'll use my cap that we've made up. It fits on like so, and we'll seal that up, and then she should be good to go. So sealed this up. It's been allowed to set up for a few days. Now we need to cut the hole with the hole saw for the sensor to go in. Pretty straightforward. Now I'm just going to put some sealant around the inside, and then we'll mount the sensor. And this is now as simple as 3 self-tapping screws into that flat plate that gives me a nice flat surface on the top of the corrugated roof to mount to. You've got to adjust the little dish thing on the bottom so that it points directly at the water, which I reckon it probably does about there. So I'll just put the screws in and then put the batteries in, screw it all up, she should be good. And that's it. So now we just need to plug in the actual receiver unit, and we need to calibrate for the depth of the tank and the amount of airspace, and then it should send us an alarm when the tank gets low and we know not to run the tank out anymore. Perfect. So to get this pump level or this tank level to work, I need to wire in this control module that then transmits the signal back to the actual reader that tells me how much water's in the tank. So I'm just going to quickly wire that up, and I'll put I'll do both at the same time. So I've got a power out and a power in, so I can plug it in, and I'm not going to use it right at this point in time. I'm just going to wire it up so that I can actually see the level of the tank. But at some point in time, we will use this to control an electric pump to fill the tank up. Right, so wired up, got a power in, power out. I cheated a little bit. I just used a cheap extension cord and cut the ends off it. I like the way they connect them. They do a better job than what I can, so I think that's a fairly reliable solution and makes life a little bit easier. Right, moment of truth. I'm going to bung the batteries in this, and then this is already plugged in and I've tested it's working. So once we plug this in, then we should get an initial setup from the level up the tank, and then we need to program that and get it all sorted out and right. Right, so we put the batteries in and we're good to go. So this is in test mode at the moment. You need to set your tank levels. You need to set your air gap, which is the amount of dead space in the top of your tank, and also the low level, which will set off an alarm. But the functionality we won't use at the moment is that low level, which triggers this, can also start a pump to then fill your tank up. So pretty handy.